So, welcome to our inspirational coffee break for leaders and the burning question on how the new normal in business will look like after Corona. Welcome our guest, Bill Flynn, and he will help us understand how this new normal will look like. Hi, Bill. Great to have you on the podcast.
Hey,
And
Stefan, how are you? Very nice to be here.
yeah, thank you for being around. And you're an expert in startups and in scaling business. And I got an email from your side, starting up the conversation, and I thought, wow, this email is meant to fly because what you put in some statements, and I want to discuss these statements. You say we do change wrong, we do decision making wrong, vision wrong, people wrong, teams wrong, innovation wrong. Most leaders are stumbling along unnecessarily. Wow, that's a statement. What an entry. Can you explain what's wrong about it, please?
Sure. So first, I don't actually think I'm an expert on anything. I'm a student. I'm always learning. So I love the topic we're talking about, leadership and business and such. And I think it's just fascinating. So I've been studying it for many, many years, as we spoke of earlier before we became live. So I think the essence of those statements are that we as leaders don't understand how the brain works, because it doesn't work the way we think it does. And it causes us to do a lot of things incorrectly. So for instance, in terms of change, according to some HBR research in an article that was done, some research that was done years ago, 70% of all change initiatives fail. So to me, that's pretty much wrong, right? And especially the new normal, whatever you want to call it, this as Moore's law pushes us to innovate faster and do things quicker, there's going to be a lot of change. It's going to accelerate. And if we're doing it wrong 70% of the time, and now it's accelerating, that's a math problem that's bad, right? Because one of the numbers.
Why are we doing it wrong, Bill? What is wrong about it?
We often foist change upon people. As opposed to having them be part of it. We always, there's a statement, at least in the US, people hate change. And I argue that people do not hate change. They hate change put upon them.
Yeah, true.
We like autonomy. We like to feel like we have some sense of control. So I think we do it wrong. We actually do the change first, and then we sell it. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to, at the beginning, you should say, hey, I think this is a great idea. Let me tell you about it, why it's a great idea. And then let me involve the people that probably would be most impacted by this idea. Let me have them actually write the implementation of the idea, and then let's do the change. We do it the other way around.
True. But now, isn't it true that through Corona, we were forced to change?
Yes. It's amazing when you have to do something, much more quickly you're willing to do it, right? Yeah. Again, the brain doesn't like change. The brain is an extremely efficient organ. It doesn't like to expend energy, and change is an expense because we have to come up with new ways to do things, and that causes a lot of cognitive load. So our brain is constantly trying to have us do less. And unfortunately for us, most of what it does outside of our conscious awareness. And we're not rational human beings. We're rationalizing human beings.
Sure.
So what we do is we actually come up with the idea, and then we come up with reasons why we shouldn't do it. Right? The more you think about it, the more reason you come up to not do it. But if you're forced to do it, it's like there's a famous, can't remember, there's a famous story about a captain who had we're gonna take a particular island or something, and he burned the ships behind him. Right? Coronavirus is like the ships are burnt behind us. We can't actually go into the office, or in some cases it's illegal. So we have to come up with another way. It's amazing how inventive we can be when forced to be inventive.
Absolutely. Now, my question to you is, we know about that, right? So we know about it, that you cannot kind of command and control change on people. It wouldn't work. It's not resilient. People go back to their behavior as it was before. Now, how do you see is through the COVID-19 crisis, what is the opportunity, and how would we approach it differently about change?
So I don't know how much coronavirus will affect us, but I'm a huge fan of a particular formula for change, which is dissatisfaction times vision times first steps must always be greater than resistance.
This sounds like a mathematical formula.
It is, right? So if any of those things is zero, right? If any of those things is zero, change will not happen. If people aren't dissatisfied, they won't actually change. If they don't have an understanding of how it can affect them, what's the vision of the change? What's it going to look like when it's over? And then we as human beings, we tend to overwhelm. If you give too much information, that's one of the reasons why we don't change. It's like there's too much, so we just close in on ourselves. It's like I just don't even want to be bothered with it. So you have to give them a couple of first steps. Right? Let's not think about the whole thing. Here's a couple of first things you need to do. Right. So I think if we think more about that as a way to do change, then we'll come up with better ways to change, and we'll involve the process a little bit better. And I think the failure rate will drop tremendously, whether it's pre-coronavirus or post-coronavirus or mid-coronavirus. You have to think about change in a completely different way than most people do.
So if I follow your rationale actually, okay. and I think we as experts, or we as guys, who help companies and cultures to transform.
Yep.
We know the difference. You can't push people. You can pull people. You can't give them. It's like giving them the opportunity to have a camera to look from the outside in, so they can see and observe themselves and get meaning about their situation.
That's an excellent metaphor. I'm always talking about people do things inside out instead of outside in, and then what happens is the ripples of whatever we're doing aren't contemplated enough, and that's when you get sort of backdraft, right? And that's when things start to fall in on you.
Now, if Corona is helping us turn the camera around, let's get this metaphor.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What is the future or what is the vision that we could see from now?
I think so. One thing that certainly seems to be prevalent is that we're realizing that most of the work that's being done, is, at least in the US, doesn't need to be done in an office. So most people can work from home. We love connectivity, right? We're tribal beings. We are social beings. Yep. We like that. So I don't think you can completely eliminate that. But it's now interesting, you can give people the choice. Those that like the human contact and want to be near other people, maybe they'll be able to go into an office. Maybe it'll be a lot smaller. It'll be more transient. You won't have your own office. You can move your office around and if you need some quiet, maybe you go into an actual office with walls and a door. If you want to be out and among people, you can be, sitting on a beanbag chair or whatever. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity for people. One of the things that I work with my clients is one of them is looking to move all their offices, and I don't know what they're going to do now. But that was part of the process. What's the design of the office that allows more innovation and more sort of accidental contact? Because that's usually where some cool insights come, is you just happen to bump into someone or you're near someone, you overhear a conversation, you tell me more about that. And I think that's going to be something that is a positive if we use it well. We as human beings, we have short memories. And so the new normal, I'm a little skeptical on the new normal. I think it'll be for a while, but at least in the US and around the world, something very similar happened 100 years ago. And we gradually got back to where we were.
Right.
So I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no. We have both seen the notes from Twitter, from Facebook, from all the digital companies. They say, okay, the people can stay home for good. So that's one version of doing it. The European version is right now, we had a crash course in learning about homeschooling and home working. Yes. And we figured out, the bank is still can run, the industry production can still run, and we were kind of surprised. Oh wow, it's still going on. But now, when you talk to CEOs and stuff, they go, oh, okay, now we want our people to come back because they have a fear they can't really sustain that development, or maybe they are scared about how to lead people remotely. So it seems like we need to balance out a number of needs. So what do you see? How could this new normal look like? What advice would we give, or what questions would we raise? What are the opportunities? Or what is the guideline maybe that we could explore?
Yeah, I think that gets to one of my other statements, which is, we do vision wrong. I think, again, back to rationalizing, some of these CEOs, I have no idea what's in their head, so I'm just going to take a guess. But it has more to do with they want more control. They're uncomfortable without seeing people, and they feel like they have more control over them. Which gets back to vision. I think if you hire well, and I probably could have, I think on my statement to you, I said that's enough. We don't hire well either, and
it gets on the list.
Yeah, it gets on the list, right? And one of the things that I talk about with leaders is, there's studies that have been done for years and years. What do you want from your leader? And two things always pop to the top of all of these studies. They want to know whatever you tell them is true. That's the first thing they always want to know, right? Because trust arrives on foot and leaves in a Ferrari. So if you don't tell them the truth and they catch you at it, it might not be a complete loss of trust, but it will shrink. And you're going to have to earn that back. And that's going to take you some time. So that's one thing. The second thing is they want to know, where are we going? Right? Vision is about the future. And you need to be able to describe the future in such a way that they see it vividly and they can picture it in their head. And then if you hire well, these wonderful people who are motivated to have this be a success, whatever that means, will come up with their own great ideas because you've given them a view of what it's going to look like when we get there. And they're going to say, now that I know that, I would do my job slightly differently, or I would have our team work slightly differently than we did before. But we don't do that. We have a vision statement.
What is wrong about the vision building these days?
We just have a statement. Most people do a vision statement, which is just a watered down bunch of words that sound good, but could probably, if you go out and just do vision statement in Google and you read them, they all sound exactly the same. Many of them just sound like they're the same thing. We're going to change the world in some way, which is fine, but you have to be much more descriptive.
What I was really felt very strongly connected towards is to Simon Sinek's work.
Sure.
And I know you're a fan of Simon as well. And just to finish up our podcast for today, and I feel almost like I want to continue now, cover up all the other wrongdoings. But to finish up for today, what I learned from Simon, and I'm really grateful for that he could give me a real strong idea about what is vision and what is purpose.
Yes.
And I think I want to finish off today, like, giving the picture of purpose is the origin story why the company was founded. That was the spark. That was the reason why, the cause and the belief of the owner of the company or the team, or, they started this, and the vision is where they want to go towards.
Yes.
And I feel that for most part, people can't differentiate between vision, mission, purpose. It's all one.
That's
it's not.
True.
It's like building a house. You need to build the foundation first, and you want to revisit your purpose, even if it's an ongoing business. And the second one is then, and maybe that's the new normal, that we start with a foundation again. We lay the foundation, we get it consistent again. And we check it that it's in line with the spark, the initial spark, right? That we come from an authentic, true self.
Yep.
Because this we can sustain. And from building from that foundation, we can build a roof that is a vision, that's the picture of where we are heading towards. And I don't think it's a new normal, but vision building is nothing that you can outsource to as an agency. It's something that you build with your team. But I don't think it's a new normal. I always thought that's a good way of doing it as a co-creation process. But what it's in now is that we first look at the foundation again. So we build it up. So thank you for joining this podcast for today, Bill. It was really exciting. As I say, we have to do another episode about the other wrongdoings.
Great. Looking forward to it.
So, and remember, we are better in this together. And please comment below and raise questions. And remember, this is a co-creational process of shaping the future. And be inspired. What else?
I'm with you. Here we go. Cheers. Not espresso, but I have a big espresso.